high atop the world headquarters of Southeastern Fly. This is the Southeastern Fly podcast. Thanks for pushing play. Here we go. For those of you who are newer to the podcast, stick in there with us, everybody else. I'm David Perry, the owner of Southeastern Fly. We offer guided drift boat fishing on the Elk, the Caney Fork Stones, some muskie, trout, and smallies. You can look us up on southeasternfly.com to book a trip. And we are in Middle Tennessee. Also, I'm the host of the Southeastern Fly broadcast. So, welcome aboard. We've got about 110-ish episodes out there, and we're doing this to help you improve your angling skills. So, sign up for the newsletter. It's on the app where you listen to podcasts. So, right here where you're listening to this one, it's in the show notes there, and you can just find that link, click on it. Hit the like, click the follow. So why is this episode a week late? Well, funny you should ask that. I've been asking myself that. But I've been waiting on some news about a giveaway that we've been working on over the past week and a half or so, I guess. It's in conjunction with a upcoming episode about fly rods. But we're going to go ahead and start the signups now. So we're going to be giving away one gift certificate for a TFO fly rod. Any rod you liked from the TFO lineup is the way I understand it. We're doing this through the newsletter. You can only win that TFO fly rod if you've signed up for the Southeastern Fly newsletter. Remember, I said that's right there where you could click on the show notes wherever you're listening to this. And your name is drawn for that rod. So, like I said, just sign up wherever you are listening to this. If you can't find it there, go to southeasternfly.com and sign up there. So you can get signed up wherever. Yep, somebody's going to have a TFO fly rod of their choice. It's going to be delivered to their house. So what the plan is for me to draw the names from the newsletter folks that are subscribed to the newsletter. And thanks to Peter Jordan and folks at TFO, I'm going to draw a name, and they're going to send the certificate. All you got to do is fill it out, decide what rod you want, and they'll send it to your house. Pretty sure that's the way it's going to work. So go sign up when this episode is fished, but not before, because we're talking about sight fishing, and I love sight fishing. To me, it's one of the most fun ways to fish. And you can do it using dry flies, streamers, nymphs, crustaceans. You can do it in the fresh. You can do it in the salt. You can do it just about anywhere, as long as you've got some visibility. It's kind of more like hunting. And if you listen to episode 108, a couple episodes ago, we talked about observating or observations and how to observate for catching fish. And so this kind of runs hand in hand, but there's a little bit more to this, a little bit more information on this particular topic of sight fishing that goes, like I said, goes right along with that other. So pay attention. So if you're fishing in the salt, which here in just a few days, I'll be headed back down to the Gulf to see if I can't get into some more saltwater fish for a little bit. And so I'm kind of getting my sight fishing mumbo jumbo on here. So got to have some good glasses, that sort of thing. But we got to find out, are they slower moving saltwater fish like a redfish or a sheep's head, something like that, that might stay kind of eating on the bottom, that sort of thing? Or is it faster moving saltwater fish like a jack that's screaming down the beach or a tarpon that's coming across a sandbar in the Gulf down there? So, or is it a deep freshwater fish like a smallie in a hole, or shallow topwater eater like a trout eating dries, which is super fun? Then you got to figure out, well, what colored lenses work, and we've got to answer that too. Good polarized lenses are a must. You should not go to the river. Well, I say you should not. You should always go to the river every chance you get. But if you're going to the river, take some polarized glasses with you. We've got a really good episode that we did with Bahio, episode 48, and we did it on polarized sunglasses and sight fishing there. So that's got even more information in it if you want to go back and listen to that. But yeah, you want a pair of polarized sunglasses, and you don't have to have the best of the best. I mean, some of the, Bios are great. I've got a pair of those. I've got some Smiths. I've got some Costas. I've got some sun clouds, I think, that are a little bit different. So I've got a ton of those things. I mean, you can only wear one at a time, right? But conditions change and that sort of thing. And heck, I don't know. I think maybe I have a sunglass thing going on. I don't know, but you can't sight fish if you can't see the fish. That was pretty profound, wasn't it? But you want to be able to look down into the water and see. So that's why you need those sunglasses. And if you think about it, it's like your saltwater guide on a polling platform. I mean, those dudes, guys and gals, those folks are not standing on that platform, 5 foot above the 4 or 5 foot above the boat for their health. I can tell you that because I've seen somebody fall off of one and it wasn't pretty. But they do that so they can look more directly down into the water. So that's why they've got some vision. And then if you listen to the podcast episode 2 episodes ago on observations, try to get yourself up, try to peer down into the water. Now on the salt, if you can get up on a polling platform or stand on a casting platform, casting with a brace for me in the front of the boat, that's great. You can do that. If you're not saltwater fishing and you're wading or whatever, try to get a little bit more of an angle on your sight down into the water. Leave the fly hooked on the keeper. I mean, you shouldn't even be fishing yet if you're doing this. If you see some fish eating consistently, you'll want to get up a little bit higher, focus your eyes, and try to just see what they're doing. And this is such a fun way to fish. And I've got it fresh in my mind, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I like to play not a fish. So what is that? I'm looking in the water and I'm looking at everything. And as I'm doing that, I'm trying to focus my eyes on what is not a fish, because there's a whole lot more things that aren't fish usually, if you can see the bottom, than there are that are fish usually. So is it a rock? Yep, that's not a fish. Is it a down log? Nope, that's not a fish. Is there a fish laying beside the log? Nope, that's not a fish. So you kind of see, is that a piece of trash? Hopefully not, but is that piece of trash? That's not a fish. What you'll do is you're ruling things out. Not a fish, not a fish, not a fish, not a fish. This is before you do anything else. You might sit there and finally find a fish, then you're going to want to watch it. Try to figure out that fish's eating pattern, or at least get an idea of the area it's feeding in comfortably. Usually a fish will get in kind of a groove and just start eating because they're hungry. They're like me eating cheese doodles. I can get in a groove with some cheese doodles now, let me tell you. And maybe they just get in that groove and they're eating their cheese doodles and they're just going from place to place. So yesterday I got to fish. Now, I'm going to get to fish twice in the same week this week. So eat your heart out. But I got to fish yesterday, fished with some friends, and we ended up suffering through a thunderstorm that was part thunderstorm, part lightning storm. And those are blowing through the south right now. So you've probably had some. And we found some feeding fish before the storm, but not many. I mean, we caught one or two here and there. But as we were sitting there waiting the storm out, it finally started kind of letting up a little bit. I started thinking back to a time probably 12, 15 years ago, long time ago. And two of my friends and I were fishing and we waited out a storm. I actually waited that storm out sitting in a metal folding chair on the gravel bar because I didn't feel as comfortable up in the trees, the high trees. So anyway, same thing happened yesterday. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, boy, that's really kind of almost exactly the same time of day. It was hot that day. The storm rolled in. Temps dropped about probably 15 degrees. Fog rolled in, then rolled out. It started raining, rained like crazy. Not for long, probably about 20, 30 minutes, something like that. And when it stopped, the fog came back on the water. And I told the guys, this is going to be good. And I think we had some non-believers in the boat yesterday, but I kind of put those two things together and said, all right, what have I seen in my past that helps me understand what we need to do next? Which is not hard for me to land on hoppers whenever fish start eating. So we went back upriver just a little bit, not maybe, I don't know, 20 yards to where some fish were feeding. And we started watching for fish. And I couldn't really see the rises. The rises are super small and the fish were pretty dang big. But they were just eating so soft. And what they were doing was they were getting in the scum lines and they would come up and eat. Of course, I'd be looking the wrong way. I know I cannot focus about half the time when I'm fishing. When somebody else is fishing, I do not have a problem. But boy, when I'm fishing, I lose my mind, I guess. But these fish were moving around without any worry. Once I finally found one, they were moving about 2 to 3 feet under the surface. Then they would come up and eat, and then they would stay. They would kind of hover just a little bit. And as they hovered, I think they were thinking, all right, what's my next move? But then they would ghost a little and then go over and pop back up somewhere else and eat like in another scum line. It was really, really difficult. I had to focus on what was on the bottom, then what wasn't on the bottom. So I started playing not a fish, basically, is what I was doing. And as I found these fish, we started getting a little closer, a little closer. We finally figured out they're just swimming from scum line to scum line because there were scum lines coming around down trees and some rocks and stuff. Not big ones, not huge, wide scum lines like you might see on a lake, but just maybe a foot wide, something like that. They're just eating away, super comfortable, not a care in the world, fog on the water. I think that made them feel even more comfortable and less vulnerable. And we made plans, we're not going to run in there. We're not going to move the boat in there real quick. We're just going to kind of sit back and watch. Don't, for heaven forbid, don't drop the oars. Don't splash anything loud. Don't splash the oars. Couldn't drop the anchor, anything like that. Do anything out of the ordinary in the boat. So we just started getting ready, stripped off enough line off the reel to cast. And when you do this, this is when it's exciting. You see their fish are feeding, they're feeding in a pattern. It's really good. You strip off your line, get ready to cast. And how many times have you seen somebody? This really drives me crazy. Whenever I do it, it really drives me crazy. But how many times have you seen somebody strip off the line? And I think I said this before too. Start casting, don't have enough line out, strip some more off, pick it up, start casting, still don't have enough line out, strip off some line, start casting, still don't have enough line out. And then finally they get to where the fish was. And on the second time they strip that line off and cast, that fish ghosts. It drives me crazy whenever I cast short, meaning I don't have enough line. Like I cast and the line is just, I don't have enough spooled off in the water or on the deck or wherever I am. And seeing somebody else, it drives me crazy because I know it reduces their chance of catching a fish. It's bad enough for me, but whenever somebody's out there with me, it just drives me crazy. Stealth is the main thing, and doing that, just not having enough line out and casting short is just as bad sometimes as overcasting and lining the fish. Remember, stealth is the main thing. And speaking of stealth, so we were watching the fish, and they were really in a world of their own. Still moving at the same rate. If we did something really dumb, they might ghost as we went down the river. We caught a few, went down the river, but they really didn't move out of their pattern. Probably, I'd say 6 or 8 different fish in 3 or 4 different places. There are a couple singles out there too that were just eating on their own, but we were finding them in pairs, it felt like yesterday. But if they ghosted or if they look like they might have moved, we just give them time. You don't have to go find another fish a lot of times. A lot of times it's you and they know you're there and they're not comfortable. And it's like me walking away from a Chicago deep dish pizza after one bite. I mean, David's coming back for that. And I think those fish are really kind of that same way. They'll usually be back if you'll just rest them and let them get back into a groove. And that means don't cast to them the first time you see them. That means let them really get back into a feeding groove, knowing that they're still probably a little bit on edge. If you think about instincts, they probably kind of look it out a little more until they get one really back in their comfort zone. Give them time to start in one direction or the other. So if they're feeding back, once they get back into their comfort zone, they're feeding left and then feeding right and then feeding left. Make sure that you give them the chance to start moving just a little bit before you drop that fly upstream and try to float it to them. Or if you can just watch, if it's a redfish, you just those things don't spook all that often, honestly. I think that's why I like them. I don't always have to be too stealthy on them. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the heat of the summer here, when we head back down there this week to the Gulf. But I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do wrong. But remember, it's stealth and patience out there. You just got to relax. And what I mean by relax is when it's time to cast, you have to be relaxed. I had to tell myself, just settle down a little bit. Everything's going to be fine. Don't get angry if it doesn't work out. It's just fishing. That's all it is. Don't get angry if your friend gets to the fish and cast to them first. It's just fishing. But that's a little different. I'll be honest with you, especially late in the day when the opportunity is less and less, and you know that you're in the back seat of the boat and your buddy gets to him first and he's just feels like he's just scarfing them up like a Hoover vacuum cleaner, and you're not getting that chance. He's catching them and you're not getting that chance, or he casts and the fish goes for whatever reason. I don't want to sound bitter about my friend that was in the front of the boat yesterday, but I really still kind of am. I'm just a little bitter, not terrible, but just a little bit. I would rather have had more shots. That's a joke. Don't write emails or anything. I'm kidding. We just had a great day yesterday, and it was all about the dry fly and all about watching them eat. And we had a few that came up and ate without us realizing. We were just kind of casting into those scum lines and that sort of thing. But it's really cool to see them eat a hopper. And let's talk about flies just a bit. Not that this isn't going to give you the secret recipe, okay? Because I don't believe there's a secret recipe out there. It's really cool though to see them sipping dries, small dries, but it's also really cooler to see them eat a hopper, I think. Anyway, I swear somebody said they're eating caddis or sulfurs or whatever. Insert your favorite fly pattern here. During the summer, it's hot. David is likely going to send them some groceries and toss them something big. It's wrong sometimes to do that, but boy, when it's right, it's really right. It's really good. Anyway, back to the bugs. Sorry. Checking out the bugs and the activity. We were watching some caddis yesterday and they were bouncing, which is fun to watch. They bounce and they bounce and they bounce, and then something comes up. And if they're lucky, they bounce at the right time and get a good miss. But a lot of times the fish, or I swear, timing them to come back down. That's fun to watch in itself. Also, we watched the birds yesterday eating sulfurs. That was really fun. Anyway, this particular part of fly fishing just adds to the sport, figuring out the hatches, figuring out the bugs. What are the bugs doing? Am I skating a caddis? Am I drifting a sulfur, trying to get my drag-free drift? Am I skittering a hopper? What am I doing there? But I guess that's probably an episode for another day. I don't know that we've got quite enough time to go into that. Maybe we'll get something together. Maybe we can get a couple of really good dry fly guides together and we can have that discussion. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But that just adds flies in general just add to the sport. Anyway, sight fishing and observations, those are two things that are very much the same. And it's not a numbers game. Yesterday afternoon was not a numbers game, but boy, it sure was fun. It's truly more like hunting. It's some of the most intense, some of the most difficult, some of the most gratifying ways to fish that you'll ever participate in. If you get a chance, do your best to be prepared and keep calm. Take a couple of deep breaths. I watched some folks that are really good at shooting rifles at distance, and you'll see them. They'll get ready to pull the trigger and they'll exhale. Then they'll pull it. You don't want to be tensed up in any part of your body. You just want to be totally relaxed and do your best to be prepared. Figure out what the fish is doing and where it's going. Figure out what it's eating, of course. Tie your best bug on so you've got your best chance at a feeding fish. Your best bug may be chewed all to pieces, and that may be working, and that's fine. But whatever you think your best bug is at that particular point, you're really going to need to do that. You're really going to need to have that tie to check your knot. That's another thing. You don't want a knot to come untied or have a little nick in your tippet or anything like that. But strip some fly line off. Let that fly line get nice and strung out or however you need it. Maybe it's coiled in the front of the boat. Maybe it's coiled at your feet. Maybe it's all laying on the water. Strip off enough to cast past that fish if you need to. Try your best not to come up short. Don't cast past it. Just have enough line to hit it and get it to where you can mend if you have to. Reach cast is a great tool in this, but just make sure you're ready. Be ready and make sure that it eats your bug before you set the hook. That was another thing that I've seen a couple of times, especially in cicadas. I mean, carp and cicadas, carp eating dry flies and cicadas. It takes them forever to get enough of their body up out of the water to get to their mouth before they eat. So, just some things to consider. Is kind of like just a primer for food for thought as we roll in toward the month of end of August and headed out to Colorado in October, I think, and hopefully still do some hopper fishing out there for a couple of weeks. If not, I'll find some dries or something like that, I'm sure. But anyway, just like I said, primer for thoughts about all this is for sight fishing and just some things to think about. Don't forget, we've got a giveaway coming up. We'll be giving away that one gift certificate for a free TFO fly rod. That'll come out next month, middle of next month. And it's any rod that you want from TFO. Thanks, Peter, and thanks, TFO. We're doing this one through the newsletter. You can only win that TFO rod if you've signed up for the Southeastern Fly newsletter and your name has been drawn. We're going to draw one winner. And you're asking yourself, where do you sign up for the newsletter? If you've already signed up, you're in. If not, it's available in the show notes wherever you're listening to this, and also at southeasternfly.com. Yep, someone is going to have a TFO rod of their choice delivered to their house, and we appreciate TFO for doing that. Also, we hope these episodes are somewhat enjoyable. Hopefully, they really are acting as a primer and kind of get you to thinking about different things. If you're brand new, I hope they open some doors. If you're seasoned, I hope that this triggers you to remember something that you have put away and you need to get back out and dust off another skill that you've kind of let lapse and you want to work on. But I really hope that these episodes help everybody in some way. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Sign up for our newsletter. You've already heard about that. It's on the app where you listen to podcasts. You can find the link in the show notes. Hit the like, click the follow. If you can give us a positive review, that'd be awesome too. You just listen to Sight Fishing on Southeastern Fly. See you next time.